Hey everyone, welcome to the email marketing demo or webinar. And I'm really excited to be joined by Ryan Austin from Switchback Marketing together. StayFi and Switchback have been working together for the past 6 months or so, developing an email marketing solution for the short-term rental industry. And Ryan brings a ton of expertise and background in email marketing for vacation and short-term rentals. Today, our objective is to really share that knowledge with this community so that we can continue to raise the game when it comes to email marketing in this industry and helping everyone here, up their email marketing strategy, get more direct bookings. Even if you use StayFi or Switchback or not, we're going to present information that's going to be helpful for everybody. And I'm going to wait to go into presentation mode for a few minutes just because people are joining. And if I'm presenting the slides, I can also admit people. So just give a few more minutes and I'll jump over and make this slide deck bigger. Just a little bit about StayFi before we go into the main email marketing section. We were founded in 2018 to help short-term rental companies achieve listing site independence. So while we always will have third-party channels like Airbnb and Vrbo in the mix, we at StayFi really believe our mission is to help every short-term rental operator, whether they have one listing or thousands of listings, to develop an independent brand that guests are familiar with, so that when guests want to, they also have the option to book directly with you. And we mainly do that through a guest data collection tool through the Wi-Fi. So you can imagine when you're renting out a rental property, if you want to collect data from every guest that stays there, we offer the ability to collect that information whenever a guest joins the Wi-Fi. And that way we're collecting information not just from the booker, but from the entire guest party, because we believe all the guests staying with you are valuable and individuals you may want to market to in the future. And I'll hand it over to Ryan just to introduce Switchback and kind of his journey in the short-term rental space. Hey, Ryan, you're still on mute.
Unmute. There we go. Okay, I hit the unmute button. Well, yeah, thanks, Arthur. Switchback was founded in 2001, so about a year and a half ago, with myself and business partner Kelly. Our kind of dream is to provide world-class email marketing to the vacation rental and short-term industry. Working in this industry for over 20 years combined, we found that email marketing is one of the most important digital marketing efforts you could add to your business. And Switchback is solely an email marketing agency that offers email marketing through StayFi and Switchback, but also services and consulting as needed.
Awesome. So what's the agenda for today? First, we're going to talk a little bit about how to set up email marketing. So if you've never done email marketing before, we're going to just go over all the technical and practical things you need to know to send your first email marketing campaign or set up your first email marketing automation. Then we're going to go through how to develop an email marketing strategy, and we're actually going to use a case study. So one of our joint customers, Juniper Vacation Rentals, is letting us use all of their content collateral setup to kind of show you how we jointly set up their email marketing strategy to drive bookings and brand awareness. And that way we can make all of the things we're talking about very tangible. And also, even though we're going to be showing them set up in our tool, obviously the concepts will apply whether you use MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Salesforce, HubSpot. So all of the core features that we're going to be talking about for this customer, they exist in every reputable email marketing tool. So just because you may not use StayFi's tools or Switchback's tools, this should still be helpful just because the concepts will apply no matter what tools you're using. And then finally, a really important one, and maybe one of the biggest gaps in the industry, is how to actually measure email marketing performance. And Ryan's going to show how Google Analytics can help you measure whether your email marketing campaigns are actually working or not. So really excited to go through all this content. And then finally, at the end, we will have time for questions. So then you could be able to unmute yourself and ask questions pertaining to any of the content that we had today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about setting up email, just some of the basic technical things that you should know and practical things. The first is something very technical that might sound a little scary. It's called SPF and DKIM. You can imagine when you're setting up an email marketing tool, you have to pick the domain that you're sending from. And you can imagine it would be chaos if I could just pick any domain and send emails from, chase.com and pretend that I'm Chase, right? So there's basically an authentication process by which you prove you own the domain that you're sending from. And that's called SPF and DKIM. And every email marketing tool will ask you to do this when you set up an account, and it's really important that you do so. And basically the way that this works is you log into your DNS registry. So maybe you use GoDaddy to register your domain. And there's some little bits of code that you paste into that basically proves to MailChimp or our tool or any other tool that you own the domain you're sending from. And if you don't do this, your emails will most likely get sent to spam because you could just be faking that you own this email address that you don't really own. So it's really important that you do this. And I've seen a surprising number of vacation rental managers not do this and just start sending campaigns from non-authenticated domains. Second kind of issue to be aware of when you get started is that you need to warm up your sending domain. You can imagine if you've never sent emails before and you have a list of maybe 20,000 emails from your past guests, if you just blast all 20,000 individuals, all the different kind of main email tools people receive emails on, like Gmail, are going to be suspicious. They're like, who is this new sender? Why are they having this list of 20,000 emails? Do they just buy this list from some sketchy website online and they don't have the rights to email these folks? So it's really important that you prove to all these different websites that are going to receive your emails that you are a reputable sender. And so you need to warm up your sending domain. So we recommend you never start sending to any lists that's greater than 3,000. And if you have a lot of old data or data you've never emailed from years ago, start by emailing those most recent subscribers, the ones that are most likely to open and engage with your content and the least likely to unsubscribe. And then over time, you can add additional contacts to that list. But just really important to know that if you haven't done email before but have a lot of subscribers, don't just start blasting the entire list because you will run into issues. This may be obvious, but make sure you use a reputable tool. There's a ton out there. MailChimp, Campaign Monitor is the one that StayFi and Switchback do email through. Active Campaign, Constant Contact. There's some really budget email marketing tools. They just may not be as effective. So just make sure that if it's too good to be true in terms of price, it probably really is. And using a reputable tool will make sure your emails have high deliverability rates. Finally, just a little kind of info, kind of what is the difference between transactional and promotional emails. Under US law called CAN-SPAM, there's different rules depending on the types of emails you're sending. Transactional emails, you can imagine, are things like receipts, booking confirmations, things that are typically sent through your PMS software. Those emails, you don't need explicit opt-in, like there's a receipt for making this purchase, things that you would obviously be sending to someone doing a transaction with you. Promotional emails, you need to collect an opt-in to send before you send those. And those are things that you would typically think of as email marketing, the things you're getting in your inbox all the time from different retailers. For those, you do need to collect opt-in before you can start sending promotional emails under CAN-SPAM. That's what that law is called. And finally, just based on your size and bandwidth, be realistic about what types of emails you can produce and how you're going to measure them. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how someone with maybe 1 to 5 listings should approach email marketing versus somebody with 100 listings plus, and what's going to be appropriate for kind of your stage of as development of a brand. So Ryan will touch upon that a little more later, kind of why he made the decisions for Juniper that he did. And then he'll also mention, if they were smaller or larger, what, types of campaigns and frequency would it be appropriate based on their size. And finally, just a little more about email marketing within StayFi. So we built an email marketing tool in partnership with both Ryan at Switchback and Campaign Monitor, which is a commonly used email marketing software. And just based on our size, we were able to negotiate a great discount for all of our users. So using the Campaign Monitor to send emails through StayFi is cheaper than MailChimp for a similar size list, and is also much cheaper than going to Campaign Monitor directly. So if you are looking for a affordable email marketing tool that is both cheaper than MailChimp and going to Campaign Monitor directly, anyone can create a StayFi account and just use our email marketing tool. They don't need to use our Wi-Fi products. So obviously, if you are looking for an email marketing tool, I am biased towards our own, so definitely would recommend looking into it.
One thing to note there too, Arthur, if you want to go back one slide, is the for the recurring $15 a month based on the list size, that is a scaling as you grow, the monthly subscription grows. But the biggest thing to point out here is you do have unlimited sends. It is all based on subscribers, but you're not charged by how many emails you send. And I think that's a huge advantage going through the StayFi Campaign Monitor. So,
yeah, and so kind of jumping into the email strategy section of the webinar now, the first thing we're going to talk about is email collection. So obviously, to have a successful email marketing strategy, you need to collect emails from guests, prospective guests, people are interested in booking your properties. And there's three main areas where we see vacation rental companies be successful in collecting emails. The first is on their own website. You can imagine if you're marketing a vacation rental website, you're driving traffic to that site, you want to make the most of every web visitor on your site. And a way to do that is make sure you try to collect an email address from all of them. And I have some great examples here from Branson Family Retreats, where not only do they have these web forms to collect on their website, they also are doing a give get. So they can see on this one on the left that if you subscribed, you get a guidebook and $100 off a direct booking. So obviously going to incentivize anybody on that website. Maybe they found the listing on an OTA, Googled it, went to the website. Obviously with this, they're going to choose to book with you directly versus going through that OTA, right? Or if you're just driving them using search engine marketing, digital advertising, anything where you're paying, you want to make sure you're getting a good ROI and collecting as many emails as possible. We'll talk a little bit later about how you can set up these forms, which will vary just depending on how your websites are built. So obviously, if you have a Squarespace site, which is what our example has, versus a WordPress site or a just purely PMS website, from a Guesty or Hospitable or OwnerRes, the process to set up these forms might be a little different, but it's definitely achievable in whatever type of website that you have. The second great source is your booking data. Now, obviously, you don't have real emails from a lot of bookings if you're getting those bookings from a third party that doesn't provide that information. Some of these PMS systems have great tools that will attempt to uncover at least the email from the booker through some type of automation. That's a great way to supplement that information, but there's a lot of great data within your PMS that you can leverage for email marketing in your past reservations. And then finally, I have to talk a little bit about our tool, which is StayFi, which, of course, I believe is the best collection method for guest data because we collect data whenever a guest in a property joins the Wi-Fi network, very similar to what you would have used at a Starbucks, airport, or hotel. And that way you can collect 80 or 90% of all guest data, not just from the booker, but obviously, all 10, 12, 15 people that are in the short-term rental property. And we also validate and ensure everyone is opted into your email marketing campaign, and we make sure all their emails are real. Now I'll hand over to Ryan to talk a little bit about the different types of campaigns, both automation and one-off. So I don't know, could you want to just walk through kind of these general categories before we go into the real example with Juniper?
You got it. So kind of following the last slide of where you're collecting forms, a lot of those are email addresses through different forms. A lot of those, if not all of them, should have an automated type response to them. So a newsletter sign up, your pop-up, a contact form, and also your StayFi having automated setup. One of the most common and probably most important is when someone signs up through either Wi-Fi or a sign-up newsletter, they get the welcome email. And that can be similar through the pop-up or website sign-up, but also very similar to the welcome to our Wi-Fi. Now with the Wi-Fi, we're going to go into this a little bit more, but you can use your data to make that personal, very segmented. The newsletter also just confirming that they got your sign up and that they add your email address to their address book. And really it's the first email they get from you. So it could be one of the most important ones. The other type of automation we run across is, we'll touch on this again or later in the slides, but automating from reservation data to rebook, trigger X months after anniversary, booking date or arrival date. So a lot of your important guest emails need to be through your PMS, but a lot of your automated promotional emails after that can be triggered through an email software with your data. After your automation, we look at types of campaigns, and Arthur was touching on the size of the company is pretty important on the strategy. And I'll take more of an approach really on the list size and the list quality of what you should be doing on a monthly. And we'll kind of go through what we recommended for Juniper as the size in the list here. Probably some, these are just some ideas to of different types of emails, but there's so many. We just wanted to list a few just to start the conversation. Limited time offers, driving that urgency to book now, and you can count down timers, but really kind of the promotional side of things. Local events, that's could be one of the things they're actually signing up for, is to have the local destination expert knowing the events. And then the third is what is important to know about the destination or attraction features that you may know about and they might not know about. And then of course, everybody loves a new property alert. That's one of the highest opens and one of the highest clicks. So as you get new rentals, add them, alert them. If you have homeowners, it gets them pretty excited to see them featured in there. Outside of this, we also kind of go, so these are kind of high level topics. Now, a lot of the direction we turn from here is content itself. So, it goes back to kind of the strategy, how often you send, how much you don't kind of overdo it in the inboxes. So if you get retail type emails, a lot of them will even do daily or weekly, and it gets to be too much where it's just not exciting to get them anymore and you ultimately unsubscribe. What we found with the short-term and vacation rental is people are excited to get your destination, to relive that experience again. So even if they're only booking once or twice a year, they're still excited to see your email and engage in it. Going back to kind of warming up yourself before you start email, really kind of target the active engagement type people. And there's tools and strategy to go through that. Where we've been shifting over the last few years is really getting clients to tell their story. So opening up your newsletter or your marketing email with more of a value rather than book now, and really telling the story of your destination, your personal company or host, and giving that kind of more, again, local feel touch to it, and then go into your specials and your featured rentals and units there. But there's a lot more strategy that goes into these, but this is a kind of give you a high level start of some ideas here.
Yeah, I would say I've seen a lot of success for smaller managers and operators really leaning heavily into the personal story of their small business. I find that to be very effective versus the big box feel that the OTAs have, right? What is special about your experience, what you bring to the table? And that can also be a great way to market yourself if you aren't in maybe as sexy or exciting as a destination. It's very easy. You can imagine if you were in Aspen or Vail or a cool ski or beach Hawaii, that all the images of the properties are kind of like it's like almost like retail real estate porn. Like people are really in and excited to see that stuff. If you don't have that, because maybe it's just not the nature of where you are marketing from, then you have that option to lean more into your personal story of your small business that will create that emotional connection so that people who had a great experience with you want to support you in the future. So just kind of lean into what are the natural strengths of either your story or your destination. And that can be a great way to tie that story into the beginning of any email that you're sending. And now we'll actually jump into this real life example, and I'll give a little bit of the background of Juniper. So they're definitely a smaller to mid-sized property management company. So not two listings, but not hundreds. They have 14 very awesome luxury homes in Michigan. They today have a Squarespace website on top of the Guesty PMS booking engine. So the Guesty booking engine works, but it doesn't have a lot of extra features to add other pages. So the way we see a lot of people approach this is they build a website in WordPress or Squarespace, and then every time you click on a property, it links to the actual booking Guesty engine. So the website is separate from what Guesty provides. And then they came to us to help develop and execute their email marketing strategy because they've invested in this beautiful website and now they actually want to see conversion through it. This just gives a really just basic visualization of the approach that really builds upon what we talked about earlier. So there's three collection points for guest data, like we talked about. There's a web form, there's Guesty itself, and then there's StayFi in the property. Each of those collection points is tied to an email marketing automation, and every email marketing tool has some type of automation or drip campaign tools. So at a high level, you can imagine you enter through the web form that triggers one type of welcome email. If you enter in through StayFi, that will trigger a different email just because on the web form, those guests are not in the property at that time. They're looking to book. Versus with StayFi, we know all the guests are in the property. So the message we're sending is going to be different because the StayFi guests are in the property versus those in the web form are probably on the website looking to book. And then finally, for data collected within the Guesty universe, all of that's going to be handled through Guesty's internal booking journey email tools. So if you set up a property management software like Guesty, I'm sure you set up automations to share things like door lock codes, what the guest needs to know when they arrive. We definitely still recommend for most people to handle that within the PMS. At scale, 100 plus properties, people can get more sophisticated where they actually take all of that data outside of Guesty and handle it in a tool like what StayFi offers, but that's definitely a much more advanced strategy. What the PMS offers is going to be good enough for the booking journey for most property managers. And then finally, we take the data from all sources and then we combine it into our email tool, in this case, to trigger monthly newsletters, because Juniper is at a good size where sending a monthly email makes sense. And we have an integration with Guesty so that as real emails come into Guesty, those are uploaded automatically into StayFi's email marketing tool. And we have that with more and more property management software, just so that you're automatically getting emails from all your different sources into your email marketing tool seamlessly. And you no longer have to download and upload CSVs from different places into one tool, which we know can be an extra headache. For the welcome form, like I mentioned, Juniper has a Squarespace website. And this is where setting up a web form is going to be a little different depending on your website. So with Squarespace, which is somewhat popular in the industry, like I mentioned before, StayFi and Switchback use Campaign Monitor. And so we need a tool that's going to help us take data from a Squarespace form and send it into Campaign Monitor. And a tool that does this for us is Zapier, which is free for this type of connection. And this just helps take any data that comes in on the Squarespace website form, because Squarespace is it's not a very flexible website building tool. So they have like specific email forms you have to use. And then you can use Zapier to connect that form to a bunch of different types of software, one of them being Campaign Monitor. And that way, any data connected through Squarespace is going to be sent to their Campaign Monitor account. And I'm sure you can do Squarespace to MailChimp, Squarespace to every other email marketing tool that's out there. The other option, if you have a more flexible website where you can play with the code more like a WordPress or some PMS sites, is you can use Campaign Monitor or MailChimp or whatever's own form building tools. So when you set up a subscriber list in Campaign Monitor, you can create forms that go on the website. And the way this works is you design the form in Campaign Monitor, then it will give you a snippet of code that's typically added in the website in like a block or in the header in the case of a pop-up. And that way you can insert Campaign Monitor's native form within your own website, and they can be styled to look like your own website as well. So if you have a WordPress site or you have, a guesty site and you want to put this code in the header, that's definitely possible. So if you have a PMS website, you just need to reach out to them about how you can add code to your site to do something like an email collection pop-up. And that's definitely achievable in all those, owner res, whatever you happen to be using. And so you can see there's different approaches depending on type of website you have and how it can interface with an email marketing tool. But there is pretty much always going to be a way to collect emails on your site and have them directly go into your email marketing tool into one of your lists. And then Ryan can talk a little bit more about how they approach, this is what the actual Juniper email looks like when you sign up through the form. So he can talk a little bit more about why they selected this content and how it's been working.
You got it. So we've been talking a lot about collecting emails and connecting websites and different ways of collecting emails. So this one I really wanted to touch on. We find it as one of the more important types of connection and automations is your contact us form. We know a newsletter form, you can do that through either your web platform or Zapier or adding a Campaign Monitor or ESP, email software form as well, but the contact form. So really important to automate an email out of that. That's why we chose this one as an example. And we did through Zapier connecting the Squarespace form to Campaign Monitor and trigger out a thank you for getting in touch email. You also can add a checkbox, a dynamic checkbox to these contact us forms. So that way they can subscribe. And if they check it, they go to the list. If they don't go to the list. Regardless, though, you can send out a confirmation email. The way I almost call these like a business card in someone's inbox. If they're filling out 4 or 5 different forms to find the best company to book from, you're the one that sent a nice, good looking email with information about your offerings and ways back to your website. So on the bottom left there, it's a unique tool through StayFi and Switchback Campaign Monitor accounts. It's called the transactional, or I like to call it on action. So it's every time the form is filled out, you're going to send a automated email every time the form is filled out. And I think that's the most important piece here is these can be sometimes your most important emails because they are going out every day, but our clients tend to forget about them. So we do add reminders to check in on them constantly. And again, it's just the value that you're communicating as they contact you through a web form. And again, Squarespace to Zapier to Campaign Monitor to send out an automated email is what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I'll just point out that because this is coming from a website, we don't really know, we may know, have some idea, but I know this company is using Vintory pretty aggressively to add new properties. And so there's like a good potential that somebody coming to the website is not a prospective guest, but a prospective homeowner. And so you can see here, because we're a little bit unsure of the audience, that we kind of have a dual message, both to book properties, as well as a really great little section at the end about property management. So you can imagine, one key difference of someone coming through a website versus StayFi or a booking is that the website has the potential to be a homeowner looking for services. So it's important that any website emails you're triggering include that messaging if property management is one of your services, because you definitely want to make sure you are servicing that audience when someone comes through a website.
It also gives them the first kind of touch of what they could see through marketing that they're going to get if they do sign up for you. So it's another.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of property management companies, say like, oh, we do email marketing, and then you sign up for their form and you don't get anything. So if you were a homeowner looking to manage, it's kind of like, did they really deliver on the promise that they put on their website to attract more homeowners to the property? So you just want to make sure that, if direct booking or email marketing is one of the things that you're talking about to homeowners as one advantage that you bring to the table, you want to make sure you're actually delivering against that promise, right? Now I'll talk a little bit about how to set up StayFi in a property if you're interested in collecting emails from all your guests. So StayFi is, like I mentioned before, a Wi-Fi email marketing capture tool. The way StayFi works is you get a device from us called an access point that plugs into your home's router. It broadcasts a new Wi-Fi network just for guests. So you can leave homeowner networks and connected devices running on the original Wi-Fi. The StayFi device will broadcast a new guest network. In this case, it's Juniper Holiday and Home Guest. That's the same in every property. So all they had to do is change their Wi-Fi instructions to be the same in every home. And in this case, they don't even have a password. So all they do is tell guests in every property to join this network. That will prompt the splash page you see they built on the right here. They decided to have the same splash page in every home, although you can also have different splash pages in different homes. It's totally up to you. And once a guest connects to this Wi-Fi network, we will have collected their email, verified that it's real, and then they are also redirected to the Juniper website. So all the guests will get sent to the website so they can further learn about the direct booking options for future stays. And guests only do this once per stay. So once you've gone on to the Wi-Fi, you are good for 30 days. And that way for Juniper, we're growing their list 10x faster than they did before, just because these homes sleep, 5 to 15 guests. And so we're getting, 10 emails per stay, as before they were only maybe getting 1 or 2, if any. When somebody joins the StayFi list within Campaign Monitor, we're triggering a different automation here, and you can see they enter the Wi-Fi welcome segment, which is everybody who joined through the StayFi splash page. And then Ryan can talk a little bit more about how the content is different here versus on the web form automation.
Yeah, as an email marketer and working with StayFi for so many years, it's actually one of my most favorite tools to grow our list organically and to kind of get the brand and the story in front of people who would have never seen it before. So, it's kind of collecting email addresses from everywhere. This could be one of the most important pieces to grow. And then just like your contact forms and anything you're collecting, automation is very, very big. It's again, automated emails happen so timely and so relevant. They'll see the highest open rates, 70 to even 90% open rates in engagement. So what we're looking at here is what we did with Juniper is, being that they only have 14 homes, we're actually able to automate an email specific to the home itself. So we're able to put the a photo or image specific to that rental, also the rental name, anything about the rental within the email itself, reiterating some of the concierge services they offer. Again, the booker might know of this, but someone else in the house might not. And then ending it with already dreaming. That way, we are kind of promoting right away that there are more here. What we're seeing on the right here is when someone enters the Wi-Fi for this specific property, we're able to trigger off an email. Then what we're able to do with the campaign monitor, and I see some StayFi clients do this with a 1 to 5 type unit for StayFi, is instead of doing a monthly email, because you have a list of 500 people, you could set up a series of automated emails within your Wi-Fi journey. So this is a very short example, and I've seen a few clients go almost a 2-month journey of automated emails, like every 2 weeks or every month. So you could almost do a traditional type email marketing, but in an automated email as people join your Wi-Fi. What we're seeing here, though, is that first welcome email goes out when you join the Wi-Fi, and then it waits 5 days later, and it'll trigger another email. So we usually talk about average length of stay, and let's just trigger off of what that is. And then we're going to say, okay, thanks for joining us. Here's a promo, or here's our other rentals, and cross-market everything else you have. You can also see below on the right image there is you have some conditional settings, and this is very basic. So did they open the book again, email or not? And then you can add a delay of maybe another week and we'll send it again. And then it can kind of grow from there, and you can also use your data. So if they stayed in this rental, promote this rental instead. Using your reservation data, you can do it off of book date, arrival date, departure date. So when you're looking at setting up these kind of drip campaigns from a Wi-Fi welcome, think about the overall data, and does it make sense to have it just in the Wi-Fi or outside of another list here? But still, again, automating emails when they join your Wi-Fi. Another kind of advantage is if you're doing StayFi currently, you'll know that there's a property and a property group. So the larger clients with hundreds of listings, you're not going to do an email per property. That's a lot of work. So you're going to kind of maybe narrow it down by property group. The other thing that I really kind of harp on here is if you have some kind of guidebook, you're going to put that on your splash page, on your success, access your guidebook instead of visit our website, but also put that in here, access your guidebook. What Juniper's also not doing here that I see a lot with the smaller short-term rental host, what we were talking about earlier is give that personal touch. So if you are smaller, you do want to say, hey, I'm Bob, I am your host. Go ahead and put a signature type thing in that intro with your lovely face and your contact information. Have it maybe come Bob from Juniper, and it really kind of gives that personal host type touch here. But as you grow and scale and get bigger, we then tend to say, not a single person and be more of a marketing company here. But either way, triggering automation based on joining a single property, there's a lot of different things you can do here by grouping them into a single email or a property group email as well. On the very simple side, some of our clients only send one email to everybody that joins their Wi-Fi and keep it really simple as well. So you don't have to go as elaborate as this either.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, just to give a little more context on the StayFi data and how it can play into this type of email. Within StayFi, each property, you can associate a guidebook URL as well as a booking site URL, so the specific URL to book this listing. When we send the data to Campaign Monitor, when somebody joins the Wi-Fi, we include these as extra merge fields. So each contact that you're collecting through StayFi will have a guidebook URL and direct booking listing site URL associated with them if you set that up with the property. And then when you create an email here, you can insert those fields dynamically. So even if you wanted to have the email feel more home specific, you could actually have this say, instead of welcome to the code Dakota, it could say, welcome to the insert property name. Here is a link to your guidebook, insert guidebook URL. And that way you can create one email and then use those merge fields based on the StayFi data to personalize it based on the property they're in. So there is you can't do pictures that way, or you have to use these if statements, a little more complicated. But if you want to just insert text or links that are different based on the property the guest stayed in, you can do that all within one automation. And like Ryan said before, if you're on the smaller side, we recommend spending a few hours creating an automation of even 5 to 10 emails over 6 months. Because while you may not have the bandwidth to send monthly or newsletters every other week, if you spend one dedicated time sending up emails, those can be sending, for months or even a year to all the guests that stay with you. And you've spent, this one activity time to set all those up. And then, everybody is getting information from you automatically based on the schedule that you set up. And then finally, Ryan can talk a little bit, at what point in terms of number of contacts should you consider starting a monthly newsletter, and what are the different types of features you can include in those emails?
Yeah, so we were talking about different types of traditional kind of monthly, if you would, newsletters and what you can do here. And we chose this one just because there's a lot of information in their newsletter that kind of touches on what we were saying, giving the story, giving some more value add, and then going into kind of more the sales type of properties. And then I like what they're doing here is almost finishing it with concierge. And search all. So on the left, they have created what's called a Juniper journal, where that's where a lot of their blogs and everything lives. So as they create a personal destination blog on things to do, utilize that content within your email. And that's what they're opening their newsletters with, to give more of a value. Did you know? And here's more of the storytelling. Then with this newsletter, not all, and a lot of this content needs to swap out every time, but within this specific one, they're reiterating their type of concierge and their commitment to their guests. After that, they are throwing in a property management. We went back and forth on that, is if guests should see that. And what we went through on there is, I think there's some things that they offer uniquely as a property management company that guests might not know of. So to put it in here, it was something we decided to do, just awareness for guests. Arthur touched on this before, adding your owners to these, letting them see what type of marketing you're doing, but your guests are prospect owners as well. There's some things we do with Ventori too, to kind of grab a lead list from your guest list to find an owner acquisition type group through your guest list. So that's why this property management is in there. And then your highest click thing in your email is going to be featured properties. So certainly lay them out, make them clean and easy to digest. And then from there, we went into the concierge offering. And again, they changed this up quite a bit, of different seasons of concierge offerings. But again, it's more of a value add and not buy now type thing. They in this with explore all junipers. They tend to either put types of rentals at the end. So if it's a pet friendly feature, they'll say check out all pet friendlies. But ending it with kind of more of an explore all. We're going to be touching on the next slide into Google Analytics, but I also want to just state that what we're not touching on in here is the inbox stats, which are pretty common. Your open rates, your click rates, your click to open, bounce, unsubscribe, spam. So all of that you should be looking at on a regular basis. So if nobody's clicking on the bottom section, do we rework it? Or are you getting a ton of click on this concierge section on the right? Let's maybe move that up in the email next time. So really kind of knowing how people engage should drive the goal and the strategy of your ongoing email marketing. So regardless of what we're going to look at next on website data, it kind of starts with your inbox data as well. So even though this is a nice, long, big newsletter, it might not work for your audience, or it might. So it's just making sure you're checking your reporting as you go through a experience like this with your own newsletter.
Sweet. And then Ryan will now I think this is one of the most important things, but often overlooked. And there's just some challenges in our industry in general, and one of the biggest ones that I know Ryan and I gripe about a lot is something called, e-commerce analytics within Google Analytics. And just we're at a reality today where most of the websites you set up just through your property management software cannot accommodate e-commerce tracking within Google Analytics, which is a real shame because it basically makes it impossible to understand the sources of bookings to your direct booking website. So something that I continue to do with all of our PMS partners is encourage them to put this on their roadmap. And I would encourage you as well as prospective customers of property management software to ask for e-commerce tracking and make sure that the different PMS software companies know that it's something you're interested in or something you could potentially base your buying decision on. And Ryan will touch upon why that's so important here, and how you can get e-commerce tracking on your website, like the different ways to achieve that, which I'll just hand over to Ryan to speak about here.
You got it. First thing, I just want to point out, this is not Juniper's Google Analytics. This is actually a client that's about 40 to 50 rentals. And this is also over a 3-month period. And there's a couple things I want to point out of why that's important, that we're looking at PMS property management company with about 50 rentals and a 3-month period, because we're going to dive into some of these numbers. E-commerce. So when we first kick off a client, or even during the initial kind of discovery phase, is do you have e-commerce in your Google Analytics? There are some web companies out there that if you're on a guesty website or all the PMSs that don't offer e-commerce Google Analytics, there's a lot of out-of-the-box websites that don't offer it, including WordPress. So if you're doing your own WordPress website and you're not working with a vacation rental web company, and there's a handful out there that do this, you can go and get them and get their professional web sites that will then inject the e-commerce that we're seeing here. You know, some of the better ones out there are IC&D, Blue Tent, Realtek, Q4, BizCore does it with Streamline. So it's more do your homework. TravelNet Solutions is a really good one. Beyond actually does a really good job there. Boostly is one of the most common ones for the other lower PMSs. So do your homework. There's a lot of decisions. It's a big move from moving if you don't have this to getting it. But as an email marketer, it's probably the most important tool that I can use to show what's working and what's not working. So without it, you're kind of driving blind, not just with email, but we can see in the big screenshot up at the top that you'll see direct, organic, pay-per-click, and email. So as an email, I want to know where I stand against these other digital marketing efforts like social and pay-per-click. With this example, we can see the revenues coming in pretty close, but the transactions are coming in a little bit more on pay-per-click. So then it's like, well, what's your marketing budget for pay-per-click versus email? If email is kind of right in line with that, should we be spending more here or there? We're also kind of seeing an overall, if you see it on the right, it gives the percentage of overall revenue coming from these channels. And I do like to see email around 5 to 7%. So we're hitting that kind of higher end with this client. So the top one really kind of shows the effort of all direct conversions, where they're coming from and how they stand up against each other. The bottom left one is one that's kind of a hidden one in your Google Analytics. And I love it because it tells the story of digital marketing. What I did with this report on the left is filtered out everything but email. So all we're seeing here is email, and it's a pretty easy thing to do. But what we're seeing in 1 through 6 is all the direct bookings that came from email. So that's nice to see. Last or second to last click, email gets attributed the conversions here. What we're seeing on 7, 8, and 9 is the importance of email. So 7's a great story there. So without email, and they went to it 4 times, and they went to it 4 times again, but then they found a paid ad, and then eventually they went back organically. So it's really cool how if that email didn't start the kickoff of the journey to conversion, it might not have happened at all. And I'm not saying it wouldn't, but it kicked off that journey to conversion. Same with 8 and 9, just being email, paid, organic, email, social. So the connection between all your digital marketing efforts is coming together in this story on the left. Love it. On the right here, it's a report that we tend to import, and it just gives kind of everything but email. I did kind of blur out some specifics here, but I did leave a couple open. So it's going to show overall revenue. It's going to show, you can do location. So it's not Juniper, but it was funny with this client to see a Michigan in their booking. So that was kind of fun. You can do it by city, and then you can do it, you can see what rental got the conversion and the revenue. But more importantly, on the top right of the bottom right report is the campaign that is driving this. And I thought it was just happened to be that this was the report I chose, and it actually tells the story of email marketing over time. So I think this was like October, November, December report that we're looking here. So of course we're seeing a November booking, but what we're seeing there below that is actually a booking from an April email. So seeing that someone held on to an email from April, came back in the October, November, December timeframe and made a booking. Love it. The third one there in that revenue by campaign report is your automated confirmation email coming from a form. Now this client has a property inquiry form, but still it's that automated confirmation email. So seeing that that drove 2 transactions over the last 2 months is such an important email part of your entire email ecosystem is your automated emails. And that's what we had touched on quite a bit early on. And then again, we're seeing a couple other campaigns come in. So with StayFi and Campaign Monitor and Switchback, a lot of this Google Analytics or all of it is automatically tracked. So there's no technical thing you need to do. It's once you get set up on Campaign Monitor, it is tagging all your links. You can tag multiple links. So if you have other companies you work with, like a gear rental or a real estate, we can put as many URLs to track in here. And again, nothing you need to do as a user. All of this is tracked. So if you have e-commerce, great. There's a lot of discovery we can find. If you don't have e-commerce, it's something to look into. Again, finding web companies to work with, and doing your homework and making that decision. This is direct ROI. And I want to be clear that ROI is not always direct bookings. There's ROI in brand awareness, in just overall traffic to your website, goal conversions. So you can set up contact forms. That's an ROI. We got them to your website. They filled out a form. That's still a lot of good ROI you're going to get from that. So I don't want to think that all we look at is transactions and revenue when we do email marketing. It is still important to kind of judge it on all traffic, all conversions, bounce rates, everything else that comes with your ROI, including your open rate. So again, there's a lot in here to soak in.
Yeah, I'll just point out one other thing is just because of privacy concerns, things like incognito browser, people accessing websites across browser, the tracking is never going to be 100%. And so the attribution of, you may say, email here is only 8%, is it worth it? I am more than confident that a good number of both organic searches and direct clicks to book here were driven by brand awareness through email marketing, or the fact of, they saw your email and then they Googled you on their work computer, right? It's very hard for Google Analytics or any tracking tool to pick up those things, especially with some of the stuff that iOS has done recently. You might have heard about that really harmed Facebook marketing just because of hiding users' identity. So these tracking tools give you directional, great information and some really cool path data around, when they were able to see somebody get an email, then come back organically. But I would be very certain that if this client stopped email marketing and stopped paid search, they would see a pretty significant hit directly and organically as well. And so there's no way to 100% know how every booking came to you with this approach, but it's going to give you the best possible data that you can have, and definitely worth doing.
Right.
Finally, I'll just touch upon just some of the offerings when it comes to email marketing that we have within StayFi. And you might be wondering, how can I work with Ryan or Switchback? What are the different options? Within StayFi, we kind of have two options for people that want that extra assistance getting started. One is a one-time onboarding service where we have two options. One that's just making sure everything's set up properly and getting training on the tool, and setting up those DKIM and SPF records we talked about. That's the light onboarding. And then if you want even more help, we offer premium onboarding through Switchback within StayFi, where you can actually get a custom branded template that looks like the Juniper template with a ton of different options that you can use for other emails, as well as helping you set up that Google Analytics reporting. And they will also set up one email to send to everybody who logs in through Wi-Fi. And then, of course, a lot of larger property managers are interested in ongoing services where Ryan will take over your entire email marketing strategy, and that you can set up time to speak to Ryan within StayFi as well. So we want to offer, through StayFi's campaign monitor tool, really an option that would work for anybody that wants to do self-service, get nothing from Switchback, get a little help from Switchback, or get a lot of help from Switchback. So all of those different options are available. And if you're not a StayFi user and you're interested in creating an account, we have a promo code here, email50, where you'll get 50% off your first 3 months of StayFi service when you use this code at stayfi.com. And then at stayfi.com/demo, on our website, we also have the ability to schedule time to speak with one of our reps, or watch a video about how the actual StayFi tool works. So all the options here, really just depending on how you want to get started. Is there anything else you want to add, Ryan, before we have a few minutes for questions?
We offer a ton of different services. What you're seeing here is just onboarding. So once you do this, it's more like you'll get kind of a calendar link, and we can talk about services going forward. So this is just to get you set up, and then we discover what your needs are. If you're going to run it on your own, or if you need a full managed program or an on-demand, we can help regardless of what we're doing there.
Yeah, and one of the questions in the chat is just I saw is about owner res. We're in the process, StayFi is, of connecting with all the major PMS providers so that we ingest automatically any real emails in your PMS into our campaign monitor tool. And right now we have it for guest track. Well, not actually track, we send it to their tool because they have their own email marketing tool, so cancel that. But we'll build it the other way for track too. Owner res hostfully. We're about to launch host away and up listing. And then next quarter, we'll have a bunch more, hopefully 5 to 10 going live. So the goal is, by mid next year to have almost every major PMS tool, the ability for us to go in there, grab any real contact information and bring it into the email marketing tool. Cloudbeds, that's on my list, Jane. And Hospitable, we'll try Hospitable. It would be helpful if you're a Hospitable user. They have like a request for integrations in there. So please request StayFi so we get on their list. And then obviously, if you use other email marketing tools and you want to send data there, we cover almost all of the major ones. So you can also suck data out of StayFi and send it to the email tool you would like to use. I guess we can just take questions through the chat. So if anyone has any other questions, they can just add it to the chat here while we have a few more minutes.
And as we wait for the next question, I just really want to touch on this tool and why it's so important with StayFi developing this with other PMSs. So, getting that kind of reservation data flowing in automatically into a list is something, most you won't find outside of StayFi that supports the overall email marketing. So again, going back to that automation data where you can automate off your reservation data, again, keep your important guest emails going through your PMS, but as you automatically import all these into a list, you're gonna then grow what we call kind of a guest communication list and a guest marketing list. And then you can start, because you have arrival dates and departure dates, you can start to say, I want to send a 10% special, but at 2 clicks of a button, you can exclude anybody with a reservation. You can also do that dynamically within the email itself. You can now target everybody who stayed last summer that doesn't have a reservation this summer. So by having that data without an export import is such a big tool and kind of really takes your email marketing to the next level for short-term and vacation rental email marketing.
Yeah, Krista Barefoot's also on the list. You can always, before we have an integration, you can always, of course, manually download your guest list from your PMS, filter out the Airbnb, Vrbo, other, non-real email addresses and upload them into the email marketing tool within StayFi. So, it's a little obviously more annoying and manual to download and upload lists from your PMS, but until we have the integration, that is how most people have been doing it, regardless, since, people use MailChimp or another tool, that's how they've been downloading upload lists since the beginning of time in this industry. So that's kind of the standard operating procedure there. And then obviously you would get all your Wi-Fi emails in there automatically. And then of course, the more you tell, if you're a StayFi user and you want an integration with your PMS, reach out to us and also tell them. You can imagine for us to work with different PMSs, some are more receptive than others, some are easier to work with than others. And so having us on their radar is always super helpful. There is a way I see this question about checkboxes on the splash page builder. You have all the different options when it comes to how you want to set up your marketing consent checkbox. You can not show it and have it in the terms of use, which is fine. You can show it and then have it be pre-checked or not pre-checked. And then when you connect Campaign Monitor has some rules that we have to adhere to. So some of the rules they have is we have to have a consent checkbox and we cannot require it. If you don't use our Campaign Monitor tool, you can also require people check it. But in the case of when you're in the Campaign Monitor universe within StayFi, you can just pre-check or uncheck it. If you have pushback, I would just uncheck it and have guests affirmatively check in. When you do that, I would consider altering this text to give them something of value Even something like, 5% off your next direct booking with us. And then when you set up that welcome automation within Campaign Monitor, you would then obviously include the promo code they would need. So if you want to have this not be pre-checked, then it's always helpful to give that extra incentive for somebody to check it. And by doing that, everyone who checks it, is pretty high intent to want to rebook. Like if they want to check it and get that code off their next day, that this is somebody who is likely to want to stay with you again.
I want to touch on that a little bit because regardless if you're using StayFi Campaign Monitor or StayFi MailChimp, you're going to get that consent as a data point. And you can easily set up a group in MailChimp saying, don't send my marketing emails to the no consent. So the question, I would look at what you're getting, why they're getting annoyed, why they're getting emails they didn't sign up to. So it's really checking your data. And then if you take it at a whole nother level, you could actually do some if statements saying, hey, welcome to your Wi-Fi. We noticed you didn't sign up, or we noticed you did sign up, and kind of tell that in your first email that they won't receive another one unless they do. So it's more looking at what you're doing as email marketing and how you're using your data from StayFi. But very important, and we took that really serious with Campaign Monitor and what StayFi has grouped in here. The next question of contact, you can reach me personally. It's Ryan at switchbackemail.com. If you have a StayFi account, you can go in here and start your onboarding process. Once you do that, you will get a contact link, and then there's a tab in there for our services and a link as well.
Yeah, I'll just say you can, Andy, if you create the email account, so under email marketing, you can create the account and you can choose not to import any data yet. And you can choose not an onboarding option. So if you have 0 contacts within StayFi email, it won't cost you anything. Then within here, you can always purchase under Switchback services, any of these things later. And then if you click on this one, you can schedule a call with Ryan here, and it will actually open. I believe if I do this, it will open you'll fill in information about kind of what are you interested in, these details, so that Ryan has all of that. And then when you hit schedule, you can actually pick a time on a calendar to speak with him. So you can do that here, or if you want to know what kind of onboarding you want, you have that here as well. We recommend these based on your Wi-Fi email list size. So under 10,000, we recommend light. More than 10,000, we recommend premium, but that's really up to you. You may also have lots of contacts outside of StayFi that we don't know about that maybe you want to have more help doing premium. Sweet. I know we're over time. If there's, Ryan, I really appreciate that feedback. Definitely will take that into consideration. And then, yeah, we'll send this recording out to everybody. And then obviously, please write me back any questions. I will send the recording out personally, BCC the whole list again. And then if you